Hello, and welcome to the Nurturing the Free Flow of Feminine Creative Power interview series. I'm Salma Morningstar, and I have Reena here with me today, who is out in a beautiful cactus garden in sunshine. Well, it's raining over here for me, so it's so nice to see your sunny face. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, Reena and I met. She joined my Luna Wave group and was immediately just so enthusiastically participating and um, having so many good things to say and share in the discussion about feminine creative power that I reached out to her and invited her to be a speaker here. And so, Reena, I would love for you to share with us about your journey with feminine creative power. What did you learn about it growing up? What were some of the things that were really strong that you learned about that, and that still you use from your upbringing? And what were maybe some of the challenges in your upbringing and experiences that have stopped you from fully expressing your feminine creative power? And how have you overcome those things?
All right, I'll start with when I was first creating. It was mainly just coloring after school to relax. And I was drawn to orange, magenta, maroon, deep dark reds. And I always used to love drawing being in the jungle. And that continued as a hobby, almost as if it's recovering from the day, at least 20 minutes of coloring or sketching out how I feel. And that continued till, I want to say, maybe 14, 15. And I also noticed it wasn't just me creating, but I used to find inspirations with the people I grew up with. For example, when I went to high school, the girls that would be around me would stitch their own skirts. They were very creative too, and I'd be admiring them. At the same time, they would admire something in me, and that would make me want to continue, even if I can't do the exact creative art. I would enjoy admiring it and discussing about it, like, how do you feel about this design, or how do you feel about this texture? And in that way, I was really blessed, because
Yes.
after that, I was in medical school,
Mm-hmm.
and I dropped creating that time,
Uh-huh.
thinking maybe I'm wasting time with coloring. I didn't paint that time; it was more of sketching. And the first year of medical school, we have anatomy as a subject. So you get to sketch each part of the body, color it in. And so I didn't feel like I lost out on creativity that year, but it was the years after where we would have a contest, sketching contest, and two of us out of the whole class would participate against the seniors, against the other colleges. And later, when we're coming out of that contest, some of our professors would be like, "Why are you wasting your time?" So
Oh,
it was a struggle, because there's this inner child that still wants to, like, get home after school and color in the lines or color out of the lines, or sketch things out. And then there's this other part, almost a mask that I'm learning to put on to be accepted by my profession, accepted by my teachers, accepted by my colleagues. And after I finished and I started studying for boards, I was feeling like this deep, deep shadow, like dissatisfaction, like something's missing. I was so happy when I was a kid. I was so happy and um, joyful to say thank you. I wasn't ashamed to say thank you to strangers. What happened to me? Something is off. And I noticed that there was this anxiety creeping in, where I would present a topic to my class, and it's like my shoulders are contracting, I'm feeling anxious, I'm looking down, like my gaze is not at your eyes, my gaze is looking down. It's almost like I'm hiding. And I was saying, this isn't me. Who is this person that I've become? And that's when this journey slowly started. As I see the women around me that were happy, like during my holidays, I used to spend time with different sets of cousins. I used to spend time with a set of cousins on my mother's side. They used to dance. It doesn't matter if you're happy or sad, we're going to dance. And they would explain to me that in my heritage, we dance when we're sad, we dance when we're happy. It's in our DNA. Mm. And if we're not dancing, we're creating. If we're not creating, we're decorating each other. And like that is sisterhood. And I was learning from my girl cousins what sisterhood is. Mm. And that was my go-to when I felt upset in my profession. I would connect back to those cousin sisters who would be telling me about the joy of dancing and dressing up. It's not dressing up for others, but dressing up to feel beautiful and unfold that beautifulness that we all have within us. And I carried those memories with me forward, and I would connect with other women the same way, thinking, they may not be my family, but there's something about them I recognize from the sisterhood I had. And that got me thinking, let me try creating again. Let me pick up those colored pencils that I had locked up when I entered pre-med. Let me pick them up and let's just try it, right? Let's just try it. And that's when I started sketching and coloring. And then I would, again, run into creative people always surround me, photographers, artists, singers. Sometimes they came as my patient and I'm helping them. And they would share their story that when they create, they're putting a piece of that positive spark within them to what they're creating. If it's an actress, it's to the play. If it's an artist, it's to the song. They were explaining that to me when they're in their dying days. Like I would sit by them and I'd be just writing, the work that I have to do. And they would say like, why do you always sit by my bedside? All the nurses, they don't even sit by my bedside, but you, like medical student, why are you sitting here? And I was saying, there's something that's drawing me here to sit and make sure you're okay. Even though I don't know anything as a student, there's something inside, like something of humanity in me that wants to know you'll be okay. And in that exchange of just sitting by their side, they would tell me their stories of what inspired them to create. And then they would mirror that to me, like I see them, there's something different from you, like within you to have this patience to sit by me. I'm nobody to you. And those stories also sometimes they inspire me too, because some of those patients had passed away. And I thought, there's some kind of blessing they gave me in that moment that I'm just sitting and listening to their story. Maybe their blessing is part of what I draw. I don't know. But I feel that comfort each time I'm going through this journey forward after, where I'm again unfolding those shoulders and my heart is warm now. And that anxiety it went away. It went away, and I noticed that the more I create, there's more of love that's bubbling forward. And there's more of people that I'm able to be myself around. Of course, there's those who don't understand. but the few that I run into that have the same quality of creating, whether it's photography, whether it's playing music, and that moment that we recognize each other, even though we're in the medical profession, and it's that joy. And they'll tell me, like, it's not something that I do for me. I do it for after I've left.
Beautiful.
And
so Reena, I just want to jump in a little bit,
yeah.
because there's so much richness to what you're sharing with us, and I wanted to just ask you some questions about some of the things that you shared, and just reflect back to you a little bit what I'm hearing you share about, which is so beautiful. And that is that you seem to have had an experience of mutually supportive sisterhood from a very young age, where your interactions with your girlfriends and your cousins were inspiring each other to be more creative and to explore that feminine creative power. Like that was part of your reality. And that's not the case for everyone. And so I want to point that out, that you have this rich.
Like I said, I'm very blessed and very lucky, because at those moments where it's almost like dipping down to be sad, I find my sisters coming close. Sisters, it could be women that I live nearby. It could be family. It could be friends that I just met in my new job. I always notice that there's this sisterhood that appears, and they're reflecting back the creative gift.
Yes.
The creative gift of not just performance for people, but it's like a natural tendency of our hearts and our minds to create and share that.
Yeah,
with no expectation.
Right. Yeah. And that's the beauty of what I heard you share, because, you know, they were the teachers were telling you that you were wasting your time because it doesn't produce some tangible result either for your medical profession, or they'd probably tell you that even if you said, I'm going to go become a professional artist, right? Even if it was producing that, but what you've discovered, it seems, is that that's not the important part. It's not a waste of time, because it brings alive this part of you, like that allows you to go and sit by the bedside of the dying patient and exchange this richness of gifts. That isn't that what we're missing in our lives? Isn't that why so many people suffer at the hands of modern medicine? Because no doctor actually sat beside them and listened to their story for long enough to understand what was going on with them on a whole level, and really, receive who they are. And in your creative exploration, bringing that aspect of your soul back online and saying, no, I'm not going to just be this slumped shouldered automaton. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to
hold, soft-spoken, inward. That's what I used to feel with the anxiety, that it creeped up, just being within what the profession accepts, what the teachers accept, what the supposed role models expect and accept. Mm-hmm. That mask that I had put on. And I recognize now that I had put that mask on to be accepted by them. Mm-hmm. And as that mask, I was able to see beyond myself, like see that there are supportive people out there. There's a sisterhood out there. There are creatives out there. And that healing that creativity brings, it brings so much warmth to just, it bubbles up out of us.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I do want to say that I did have a few teachers who were also creative, but they would tell me at the end when I'm leaving. They were also creative, but they would tell me at the end. They would tell me, when it was time to like leave that campus, they would tell me, you know, Reena, you're different. You're going to create something. I know that you've been hurt by things people expect, but you're going to create something. And even them in that moment of weakness where they know that the system is cold, but yet we exist, they were saying that things will change, things can change, don't stop creating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it too, is that you have this cultural tradition of sisterhood that's still intact. You talked about it being in your DNA.
Yeah, my cousins would tell me, they'd be singing, they'd be dancing, and they would tell me, and they would remind me, like, your mom's mom used to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your DNA. Maybe you don't see it in like the closer related people, but this is part of the heritage you're here to share with joy.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
it sounds like it's been distilled down, so it's not necessarily a religious practice, although you might have some religious celebrations that you do, but it's not necessarily, it just sounds like it's distilled to just pure dancing and pure joy.
Yeah, and just being you, like totally unfolding your shoulders and just being with the music.
Mm-hmm.
Not planned, not structured, not at a certain time. It happens spontaneous.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was really lucky to see that part of my heritage because my own siblings had not.
Uh-huh.
I was lucky to see that because also some of my own people of my original tribe, they also didn't get to see it because they were chasing profession. It's really interesting.
Yeah. How
And
it gets
even when
lost.
I'm creating now, those same sisters would be like, I want to create too. I want to paint too.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they will because it's part of, like, dancing is also an art.
Mm-hmm.
Painting is also an art. There are so many arts that we have yet to know unless we've tried them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and that joy that it brings,
Yeah, it bubbles up.
it bubbles up. It's so nourishing,
Yes.
that's what it produces. It doesn't necessarily produce something that's going to make money, but
Right.
it produces a quality of life,
A better quality of life.
and
I say that, yeah.
and it produces a creative energy that then when you are standing by the bedside of somebody who's dying, gives you the impulse to sit down and be with them and treat them like a human being and give them this rich gift of being listened to and appreciated.
And witnessing them.
Yeah, and
I
witnessing.
think that's so important because before getting back into what I loved about creativity, I felt I was just on autopilot.
Yeah.
Whereas with creativity, there's more focus, there's more authentic connection, there's more patience. Because even when you're creating a piece of art, you're patient throughout the whole thing, like you're nurturing that power of creation. You're not controlling it to be perfect. It could be imperfect, but you're letting that energy flow through you.
It's beautiful. And that energy flow builds and feeds upon itself and loops back and creates more of that creative energy.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. And what's really interesting is when I started going down this path of creating more rather than withholding creating, I noticed that in history of medicine in America, we have doctors that have found out that, for example, Dr. Herbert Benson, he wrote this book called The Relaxation Response. And he himself says for high blood pressure, just doing meditation or anything that relaxes you, it brings down blood pressure, anxiety, depression. Like, he himself had written that down in the late 80s, early 90s. Yet it's been hidden and now it's resurfacing again. As
Beautiful.
more creatives are dipping into that for inspiration, he's not the only one. There's 2 or 3 others where they're saying that creativity is the cure for a lot of things that we don't need to do just medicines for. It builds connection, it builds community, it
In,
makes us more whole.
in
Yeah.
fact, this is beautiful because my husband just got a job as a creative therapist
Oh wow.
in the
Yeah, I
psych
love it.
ward at the local hospital.
Oh, he's going to be witnessing wonders.
Oh, he already is. The stories he
Yeah.
comes up, and the reason he got that job, he's not
Uh-huh.
even a trained creative therapist, although you
Right.
can go to school now to become
Right.
a creative therapist and bring
Uh-huh.
creative, creative writing, creative, artwork and different things like that to people in different kinds of institutions that need to help relaxing and like that. So the psych ward, the senior homes and things like that.
And even for ourselves, we can
Yeah,
heal ourselves through all these creative arts and even fostering that creative feminine energy, because that energy is nurturing.
that's right. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just beautiful that this is all coming up for you. So you've gone through this process of knowing this from a young age, having this practice of coming home after school and unwinding with this art, and then having your mutually supportive sisterhood experience, and then going through medical school and having to live up to everyone else's expectations and not waste your time and sort of let it go. And you felt how that felt. And then you realized,
Actually, I found the sisterhood only after going through the shadow side of suppressing the art.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
thought you
'Cause-
said that you used to have girlfriends that would sew their
oh,
own
yeah.
work.
That was in high school. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that was
And then
before.
that was before going into that pre-med hierarchy.
Right. But that wasn't your family. That wasn't your cousins.
That was the sisterhood that I grew up with, like the childhood friends.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's really
yeah.
rare too. I don't have memories of childhood friends like that.
Yeah, I have a few, and the interesting thing is they all went into the healing field, be it
Interesting.
psychology, through the same struggle with the structures, but they're still creating and they're still witnessing each other and encouraging each other to come out and speak their truth. So, yeah, it's amazing to reconnect back with them after med school and see that they're still fostering that creative energy within them and everyone around.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder, we talked about this in my interview because I just had one of the guest speakers interview me for this speaking series.
Right.
And so I wonder how you feel about this and if you would be willing to share a little bit about it, because what I noticed is, is the connection between our creative energy and our sexuality. And I wonder if you noticed a similar thing happening for you with when your creative energy was sort of turned off.
Oh, yeah.
In your sexuality and in that way.
Yeah, that I did experience that when I was suppressing the creative energy.
Mm-hmm.
I did experience that I felt blocked.
Mm-hmm.
I felt blocked to be sexy.
Uh-huh.
And what I was attracting also was that power struggle. I noticed that as soon as I was dipping slowly into creativity and into harnessing that flow and knowing when to be patient and when to create, how to do the self-care balance, I noticed then I'm getting flow in all parts of life, not just in the creative aspect,
Hmm.
even in the intimacy of sisterhood, even being able to express my feelings,
Uh-huh.
um, even to express those emotions. I notice that my best creative work is when I'm frustrated, when I'm angry, when I'm, I want to say, in that moment of injustice.
Uh-huh.
That's when the best creative work comes out, because something inside wants to change, something inside wants to innovate. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's that moment too in the healing process as well.
Mhm.
Because any illness uh, that you might encounter is simply the body saying something needs to change.
Yeah.
And so having
Yeah.
that creative wellspring
Yeah.
feels like that's what we really need to bring into any kind of healing work, whether it's in medical healing work or in my work it's holistic healing. I do the best treatments when that creative juice is really flowing for me.
Another interesting thing I just remembered is there's this woman doctor named Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Yes.
She used to be a psychiatrist in Switzerland and then migrated to America. And she's the one who's responsible for that whole taboo on grief, um, being with the dying, letting them say their story. She has a book that was another inspiration for me. On one of my dark moments, I ran into her book and I'm like, why is it full of pictures? She has a book where she and the patient are drawing side by side while they know that his diagnosis is he's going to die. And all those communications she made into like this series of books for anyone who's going through grief or losing a loved one or going through cancer. And the way she's written, it's so beautiful. It expresses so much, yet I don't know why it's hidden from everyday people.
Yeah, well, she's been a mentor of mine, so
Oh, wow.
she's not been hidden from me.
Okay, good.
But you're right, not enough people know of her work and the process, the grieving process that she promotes. But I happen to be a grieving
Oh, wow.
a grieving specialist, so um, and worked with hospice people
And
who
and
died.
that's so powerful because I feel like those emotions are suppressed.
Hmm.
And that also is a source of people getting sick, those regrets, those suppressed emotions that are not expressed.
Yeah, and isn't that how you were saying that in your creative process, your coloring or your creating something helps you to express those feelings
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
difficult to express in other ways? Like if you're angry or frustrated with a situation or a person, it's hard to be constantly telling that person or that situation that you're angry at it enough to
Yeah.
feel fully expressed, right? Or when it's really the heat of the moment, it's to have words that are kind when you're feeling enraged are difficult. But you can sit down with colors and just put
Yeah.
that rage on the paper, or
Exactly.
dance that rage and let it be expressed so you're not suppressing it. And then that helps to clarify, okay, what needs to change. And then you can express more clearly what, a distilled version of what's going on with clarity to the people and situations involved, and take clear action that's not laced with all that chaotic rage. So it can be, is that your
Yeah.
experience too, that it
I,
helps you?
I was just getting another thought. Sometimes us in our minds, we can say a bunch of things, but when we take it to art, we're communicating with the body and we're able to tap into what our body's trying to tell us, like those intuitions. That's what I was getting when you were talking. I wanted to bring that point up, that sometimes we as women, we're such emotional creatures. We hold so much in our heart and our minds, like our minds mix in with the heart. Then we create, we're communicating with the heart, and then we are able to express words of worth, not just the automatic talking, but words of worth, like after dipping into the heart. It's almost like a meditation.
Yeah. Well, and then too, it dips even deeper than that, all the way
to the force.
I mean, that's where our creativity really comes from, is the womb. It's the core of our creativity. And so it reforges that connection between the womb and the heart. And it allows us to express the memories, the feelings from that deep creative core. And I love what you said about how it allows us to, we're actually communicating with the body when doing artwork. So it's not just we're expressing outward, then we're seeing it with our senses, or feeling the movement in the body. We're hearing the music if we're making music or singing. And we're feeling the textures of the fabrics as we're and the jinglies as we're adorning ourselves and you know, moving around with that. And so we're giving ourselves sensory input as well in the process. So then that's a conversation that we're having with all parts of our physical reality that awakens the intuition. You said our inner sense of touch. That's what intuition is. Intuition, the inner sense of touch. And that helps us to clarify, okay, what is it that I'm really feeling? What is it that I desire? What needs to change? You know, and start to move energies and flow with it. Beautiful. Boy, we're just riffing now.
I was also getting this other thought that I wanted to share with you is women all over the world are the first teachers. They're the first teachers to humanity. And if we're the first teachers, then creativity is part of that teaching.
Absolutely. Well, creativity is how any of us are here in the first place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're all co-creations.
Right? We all are the fruits of somebody's womb.
Uh-huh.
Everybody who's here, man or woman, came out of a womb.
Exactly.
And was created inside a woman's womb.
Yeah.
And then born through
that. And of course, the womb and the heart has to be a portal, a powerful portal. I mean, I'm only in that beginning of that journey.
Well,
I feel so.
Yeah, it's very true. And you might like to hear what my acupuncturist told me, that in Chinese medicine, the heart, well, Chinese medicine has a little bit, a richer understanding of blood and what the blood is. Okay. It's the blood. It has all of these esoteric meanings and functions. So it has emotional functions and spiritual functions, as well as physicality and biochemical functions that Western medicine recognizes. And so the blood has an energy to it and all these qualities to it, in addition to the physicality of it. And so the organs also interact with all of these energies in different ways. And so in Chinese medicine, it's said that the heart pumps and moves the blood, right? The heart moves the blood around the body. And so all of those energies associated with the blood, the emotion, the all of that gets moved by the heart, right? The heart moves all that. Well, Chinese medicine also says that the womb is the blood.
Mm.
So while the heart is acting upon the blood and moving it around, the womb simply is the blood. It's not the source of the blood. It doesn't interact with the blood in any particular way. It just is the blood. The womb is the blood.
And that area is so vascular.
It is.
True.
In fact, I was reading recently that during surgeries, was it you that
I was the one telling you, yeah.
about
surgeries, they take proper care of the woman's pelvis because the blood will automatically flow there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there is, when we start to include the esoteric and energetic qualities of the blood and recognize the womb as the blood, the beingness of the womb and the blood together being one, right? Then, and how vital the blood is for our life, then we can start to see the womb as a guiding force, you know, and a way of understanding the blood,
yeah.
this life blood, this what gives us life and what nourishes us in our life. And so the cyclical nature of the womb and the creative nature of the womb. And I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of the placenta laid out in such a way that it's a tree of life, right? You know?
With the 3 arteries, yeah.
And so it's just so beautiful to connect that primal creative energy that needs to be nourished.
Oh, definitely.
And feeling that connection with the heart. I mean, when I was healing my sexual stuff, I was drawing all these pictures with the womb over here, and then all these veins going over to the heart over here. You know, I do it on black paper but red chalks all over the place with all these veins going back and forth. That was it, my picture, the womb and the heart. I can't tell you how many pictures like that I did.
And also with the womb and the cycles that we have, the 4 weeks, the 28 days, it correlates with the moon.
Yes.
So I noticed that I have these amazing creative products on my ovulation time, which also happens to be now. It's always ovulation time. I mean, even if I create 28 days, I always notice that day 10, day 14, those are like the most colorful, warm images. And I even love those images that I create that time. And I notice also that what I create that last, I want to say 3rd week, it's almost like the inner woman wants to speak the truth, wants to get the anger out, wants to cleanse the system. And that 1st week, it will be teeny tiny paintings, almost as if nurturing what is going to grow, like the new ideas, the new seeds.
Right.
And I feel with feminine creativity, it correlates with the moon.
So then when you are ovulating and it's the full moon at the same time sometimes.
Oh, that would be a super powerful. Yeah, super loony.
Yep. And sometimes, you know, like my cycle goes throughout the whole lunar cycle, like it sort of travels. It's a little earlier every month so that I get to experience, what's it like to menstruate on this moon?
And that change is an experience. Like each of us experience that new moon menstruation differently and that full moon menstruation differently.
Yeah.
And I used to teach some of my friends' boyfriends this about the moon and the menstrual cycle. And they used to love the moon drawings. Like I used to draw it like the moon phases. And then they would get it like, okay, day 14 and day 10. Wow. Okay, be careful. But then also it's like, it relates to the moon. They would just laugh.
Well, what a gift you were to them, you know, and to whatever woman they ever ended up being with
Oh
partners.
yeah, I'm sure now wherever they are, they're fine.
Well, because what a gift. I mean, meeting, I can't imagine being a woman dating. I've been married together with my husband for 14 years now, but imagining dating a man and finding one that has an awareness of that, it's becoming less rare. I think because more women are speaking up about this and sharing this.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that for me, people always come up to me when they need that understanding in an art form about something to do with reproductive organs in women, and it will always be men.
Mm.
And I'll just draw a little picture for them, tell them a story. For me, it's almost like giving a prescription, but it's not. And they'd be like, I wish I heard this when I was a teenager.
So the men are coming
Yeah,
to you
yeah,
to learn
yeah.
about womb moon mysteries. Beautiful, so beautiful.
And this was spontaneous. Like I didn't even realize I was doing this till like years later.
Uh-huh.
And one of my friends, he moved to the East Coast, and he was telling me, Reena, that moon picture you made for me, we framed it and kept it in our new house, so I won't forget. And I was like, what? And it's like, it's so beautiful and it makes sense. And I was just like, wow.
Wow. Well, I hope that you'll show us in the Luna Wave group some of your.
Oh yeah, I'll
Didn't
be
you already
creating.
post? You already posted some of your moon pictures. I think I remember seeing one. Didn't you post a new moon?
Oh, a new moon one. Yeah,
picture?
yeah. But
Okay.
I'm inspired to do one like just for women about this moon cycle and the menstrual cycle, how that correlation, because when that friend of mine is telling me he framed it in their new wedding home on the East Coast, and this is years later, I was like, what? All women need this.
Yeah, you do. I could see you making some kind of an oracle deck, or like a moon womb phase painting, so that like, okay, if you're ovulating at this phase of the moon, pull this card and look at this picture.
Oh,
And
that would be fun.
wouldn't that be fun? Maybe we'll collaborate on that. Oh, look out, world, here we come. So
That would be fun.
you said you have a resource guide for folks wanting to get some support with.
Oh yeah.
the process.
So everyone who's watching this interview, I want to invite them. They could see my paintings on Instagram. It's under Reen Sarai, ReenSarai. And if they like it, then they could email me. I think it will be printed on the bio. They could email me for a resource list, and I'll be communicating with them when I'm going to do a guided creativity process.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, that sounds wonderful. So we could talk all evening about feminine creativity, I'm sure. So I just want to thank you so much, Reena.
Oh, thank you, Sama.
Sharing your beautiful wisdom with us before we wrap up.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. Is there any last words you'd like to say in parting?
I want to say every person out there is a creative force. And every woman out there, I feel creativity heals. We are lucky. We live in the era where we're going to see this in medicine. The system is changing, but keep creating.
Beautiful.
Keep co-creating.
Beautiful.
Keep honoring your rituals of pause. That's so important that we're missing in our health. Women pausing and re-nourishing ourselves. It's so important.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that's it for this one. Until next time, and maybe we'll go live together for some Q&A during that. Ooh, maybe.
Or maybe we can do the moon menstrual drawing I was telling you.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Maybe.
All right. We'll keep
All
an eye
right.
out for what comes out of this. All right. Take good care, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.